what was the relationship between your mom and dad?
Terrible, and they were both Jezebels.
Jezebels? What's a Jezebel? Like a charlatan?
Yes.
Fell for you. They were like,
Yeah, they were, like, not faithful to each other, and I remember, one time Terry talking about, like, "Oh, you know, this guy kissed me terrible. He shoved his tongue down my throat." And I thought, "What a terrible friend. He needs to learn how to kiss better." Like, this is all in my thoughts as a kid sitting at a bar doodling. How did I become this person? I don't know. But yeah, those were the kind of that
so
was
they
like
didn't like, was it an open relationship or did
no, it
they?
was not an open relationship. They were miserable with themselves. They're both have a tendency to have a victimized mentality and
Still together?
no, 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 no. They divorced shortly before I lived on my own. So it was like around 13 or 14 is probably the last time I saw Terry. Maybe I was 11 or 12. No, it was 13 or 14. And then it was 14 or 15 because it was before I drove. And once I started driving, because my grandparents gave me my first car, that's how I started driving. So there was like little niblets of like my grandparents trying to help, but I never lived with them and I don't think they understood the extent of like what was going on at home. Um, or they just didn't want to step in. I don't know. Either way, they try to help here and there. And my parents finally split and he moved with his girlfriend in her trailer and then my mom kept the house because I was there with her boyfriend that already lived in the house. It was a very wild situation. And yeah, no, and then she just kept spiraling down and getting worse and worse as an individual and very, very abusive, verbally, physically, to the point to where I got hurt. And then my dad acted like he was kind of like involved in my life. And so I told him because I thought I trusted him. But then they just used that in court. And then he got custody of me and whoever got custody of me got the house. So really, it was just his wife now wanted a house, and
Sounds like a
yeah, it was
hard
like
upbringing.
it was a wild. It was wild. Like even thinking about it now, I'm just like, How the hell did I live through all that?" And so one day I came home when I lived in said house that they got because of me. I didn't have a room. And so my grandpa tried to like make me a room out of this larger den room because she gave her children the rooms and I was sleeping on a couch and she got to the point I think she was trying to teach me like how to be a responsible individual or something but it just didn't I don't know it was a really weird situation so his now wife was like charging me to do my laundry per 30-minute shower, to use a box fan, and I had to buy my own toiletries and stuff. And so I was working and I came home and she was mad at me over something. I'm not even sure what. I can't remember. Probably best. But she destroyed my room. And I just decided like I can't do this anymore. And so I took a few clothes, all my money, and then I had a car, so I left. And then I started living with one of my coworkers and his girlfriend, and like that's kind of how I ended up on my own. And
This was at what age?
I was 16. Yeah, and then like everything's unstable and crazy, and his girlfriend wanted me to pay half rent instead of a third rent, and I was like, I'm not paying for you, so they kicked me out, and I'm 16, so I can't get an apartment, so I was just kind of at the like mercy of anybody that was going to be kind. A lot of people didn't want me to stay with them because they didn't want to get involved in it until I was after 18. They said, well, you can stay here, but I'm going to call CPS. And I was like, I don't want to make this an issue. So I'd sleep in parks a lot. And
You were homeless?
yeah,
For how long?
just like off and on. So I wouldn't even say like off and on for maybe like a year.
From 16 to 17?
Well, when you put it like that, maybe yeah, like, cause I had, like, bits and places. Every once in a while, I would have somewhere to stay, and it would be like, "Yay, I have somewhere to stay," for, like, 3 months, and then I wouldn't have anywhere to stay again.
My daughter's 16.
Yeah,
I can't imagine her
yeah,
being out in the world,
yeah.
left to her own devices.
Yeah, no, I would stay in, like, uh, neighborhoods that were being developed because some of the houses were built and then others weren't, and so I felt like I was, like, close to people, but not too close, but I didn't look conspicuous for having a car parked there because there's workers,
Mm.
and they have different cars. I don't know, that
So
was my
you
logic.
live in these houses that were near
No, I would
complete?
just stay in my car.
You would
Yeah.
stay in your car?
Yeah, I had a hatchback, and so I would sleep with my head towards the hatchback and then my feet out, so, like, if you looked in, maybe it wouldn't look like a human. Eh,
What was that time in your life like? Like, what was your
I don't really know other than I was in high school, and I was scared a lot, and I was just trying to go through things, and I didn't ever act like anything was going on, to the point to where, like, my principal had to, like, call Mark and see if I lived there or not, and he was like, "No, she hasn't lived here for."
so you were still going to school?
Mhm. Yeah, I was still going to school and I was still working, I just didn't have a place to go home. Because that's what you do, right? That's all I knew.
It's heartbreaking,
And
actually.
I, like, would like, I was tired because I would try to work longer and my job would let me, and so I would get home at, like, 1 or 2 in the morning because I was working at Fridays, TGI Fridays.
Mhm.
I worked there with flare and without flare. And the transition in between, it's funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, that's where I worked, and they have a bar, so, like, they let me kinda, like, card people for a little bit longer so that I can make a little more money, and, which would make me tired, and then school starts at, like, 7 or something, so I'd be late every day, and so I technically failed my first class and didn't get to walk because I had 27 absences because I was over 20 minutes late, and my teacher never asked me what was going on or anything. But I had a 97 in a class, so I was no dummy pants. I don't know. So my principal was, on to me because of my absences. And then he asked me what was going on, and I wouldn't tell him for a long time. And then finally, eventually, I told him. Then he asked Mark. Then he knew I wasn't lying. Then he felt really bad. So he tried to help me make up time for the absences. He got me my cap and gown. Didn't know that this one or this one doc or teacher was gonna fail me in my class, and didn't find out until it was too late, and so I didn't get to walk, and I had to go to school for, like, what's that, like, summer school type thing?
Mhm.
But I finished that in a week and then graduated, so
Seems like you were a kiddo that fell through the cracks.
a lot of it, like, and I think, like, why aren't there, like, services for those kind of situations? Like, I feel like, and if there are, I don't know about them or didn't know about them. And so, yeah. And then I went to cosmetology school afterwards, and my grandparents kind of helped me through that, like registration and all of that, and they were kind enough to, like, pay for me to go to school, and then I just worked. I worked at Fridays. I worked at Victoria's Secret, and I went to school and finished cosmetology school, and then started working in salon and day spas.
From by the time you were
Took, like, I mean, I think it's like 2 years.
18?
Yeah. Yeah, and then from 18 to 19, I was just hustling hair. I would work at work, and then I would work before work or after work. Sometimes I would do hair at, like, midnight. Um, I've cut hair at Sonic. I've cut hair at a mall. I just would do it anywhere and would do anything to try to make any dollar I could because I just never knew when I wasn't going to have enough money. And I was staying at my friend's parents' house for the last bit of my cosmetology school because I was just over 18, and they let me stay there until I graduated, which was in the summer of whenever. And then they kicked me out, and so I got my first apartment. And then it was never an issue really after that because I was old enough to be able to get my own apartment. I had to just like rely on other people. And that was actually probably the hardest thing. It wasn't that I wouldn't even be able to like afford it or anything, because I definitely just only worked and I did not have like a normal childhood. And I would go and like try to do like kid things and go to parties and stuff, but I didn't ever have a connection with anybody. So I'd always like be invited to a whole bunch of things and I didn't know how to say no. So I'd go to like 8 different parties, but stay 30 minutes at each and just be like, "Oh, well, sorry, gotta go." And like nobody knew like I was just going party to party, mostly driving then through the night. And then would go to sleep and then like start my work day because I was just trying to like fit in. It was weird.
Yeah.